Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So glad that you're here. I'm actually pretty happy right now. You know why? Because my wife bought me a new chair and a nice new comfy chair. And I'm going to need it because we're going to be digging into a long document which is detailing information that a lot of which we've never heard before in the Long Island serial killer case, which the person accused of that is this man, New York architect Rex Heuermann. The victims in this case, we have two new victims. So we have a total of six confirmed. Well, I don't know if I'd call it confirmed. I would call it charged, right? That is Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and now Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla. And I think Holly has given us a very good comment just to get us going. Okay, what we're going to be talking about tonight is really ugly, really dark. It is okay to skip this one. Okay. What I plan on doing is showing you guys, I'm going to read with you this 37-page document, which was released to the public yesterday after Mr. Heuermann was indicted on two more, well, he was charged with two more murders. And so that's the plan. I'm going to be going through this document. I know that I'll be doing a lot of reading, therefore, I won't be looking at a lot in the comments. And so Autumn is already ahead of me here. If you have a question for me or something that you really just want me to be able to see, please go ahead and put GF in the comments. Let me make sure that I can assign that a button so I can easily bring that up on screen. Okay, just get my attention in the live chat by putting GF, and then I will filter that off so that I can see the things that you guys are telling to me. Okay, so with that, let's not belabor this. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. All right, this is a bail application for Mr. Heuermann. On July 14th, 2023, defendant Rex A. Heuermann was charged by a grand jury with the following 6 counts, which had been incorporated in the Suffolk County indictment: murder in the first degree for the death of Melissa Barthelemy, murder in the first degree for the death of Megan Waterman, murder in the first degree for the death of Amberlynn Costello, and then murder in the second degree, it says, for Miss Barthelemy, murder in the second degree for Miss Waterman, and murder in the second degree for Miss Costello. On January 16th, 2024, defendant Rex A. Heuermann was charged by the grand jury in a superseding indictment, Suffolk County indictment, blah, 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 which incorporated not only the above counts, but the additional charge of murder in the second degree for the death of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. I think she is on this page. Yep. And then today, the defendant, Rex Heuermann, stands before this court charged by the grand jury in another superseding indictment, which incorporates each and every one of the above counts, as well as the additional charges of murder in the second degree, a Class A1 violent felony for the death of Jessica Taylor on or about or between July 21st to the 26th of 2003. There's Miss Taylor in the middle. And murder in the second degree, another Class A1 felony, violent felony, for the death of Sandra Costilla on or about November 19th or 20th of 1993. So we now have 6 victims. The people filed a written bail application at Rex A. Heuermann's initial arraignment, which occurred on July 14, 2023, as well as at defendant's arraignment on the initial superseding indictment, which occurred on January 16, 2024. Those applications are annexed hereto as Exhibit A. On July 14th, 2023, the Honorable Richard Ambro ordered that defendant Rex A. Heuermann be remanded without bail. The matter was subsequently adjourned to August 1st, 2023, before the Honorable Timothy P. Mazzei. On August 1, 2023, and in the ensuing appearances that have followed, this court has continued to remand the defendant without bail. Set forth below is the people's bail application in support of the new superseding indictment, which will expand on additional evidentiary developments in this investigation, now charging defendant Heuermann with the murders of two additional victims, Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla, that we see here. Based on the defendant Heuermann's indictment on additional murder charges as it pertains to now a fifth and sixth victim, the serious and heinous nature of these serial murders, they use that word, serial, the planning and forethought that went into these crimes, the strength of the people's case, the length of incarceration the defendant faces upon conviction, the extended period of time that this defendant was able to avoid apprehension, and the remaining facts set forth herein and contained within Exhibit A. The people remain steadfast that the only means to ensure defendant Rex A. Heuermann's return to court is to remand him without bail. Let's see, real quick. We've got a couple of questions already. Deidre says, GF, is the wife a suspect at all? I haven't followed this much yet. Actually, yeah, let's sidetrack, because that is a very good question, Deidre. There was another letter that was released yesterday by Robert A. Macedonio and George H. Duncan, attorneys at law, that says this indictment further illustrates that Asa Ellerup has no involvement in any of the alleged crimes that her estranged husband Rex Heuermann has been charged with. Miss Ellerup married Rex Heuermann in 1996. She was not residing with Rex Heuermann in the Massapequa Park domicile in 1993, the year Miss Costilla was murdered. Moreover, according to the government, at the time of the death of Ms. Taylor, Miss Ellerup was once again not in the jurisdiction. As we have previously stated, if Mr. Heuermann committed these homicides, he was living a double life that Ms. Ellerup was unaware of. After 27 years with Mr. Heuermann, Ms. Ellerup maintains the belief that her estranged husband is not capable of committing these heinous acts. So there's that. Good question. I don't know if what she's saying is true or not. And then Autumn, I'm not sure what the difference in New York is between first and second degree murder, because, for example, the Commonwealth of PA has third degree murder, which in other states is usually called manslaughter. But typically the difference is the aforethought part of it. So murder one must contain malice and must contain planning. Murder two must only contain malice. That's usually the difference. Good question. Okay. The 2003 and 2011 discovery of the human remains of Jessica Taylor. Her remains were discovered, different parts of her remains were discovered 8 years apart. Okay. On or about July 26, 2023, an individual whose identity is known to law enforcement, hereafter Witness 1, was walking his or her dog just west of Halsey Manor Road, Manorville, Suffolk County, New York. At the time, Witness 1 observed what appeared to be human remains, which prompted him/her to call 911. Upon arrival, members of the SCPD observed the remains of a female, later identified as Jessica Taylor. Ms. Taylor was found lying on her back with her legs bent beneath her. Again, let's just do a very quick warning here. This is gonna get into pretty gruesome details, guys. Of course, it's gonna be pretty sanitized, but we're gonna get into gruesome details. So if this is something that is going to bother you, please, 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 just turn away. Go do another thing rather than watch this video. Okay. So she was found laying on her back with her legs bent beneath her. Notably, the victim was decapitated, and both of Ms. Taylor's arms had been severed from her body below her elbows. Moreover, a tattoo on the victim's torso had been severely obliterated by a sharp object. I think that goes to the aforethought part of murder. Trying to get away with it, or at least consciousness of guilt. I don't know. Investigators believe the mutilation of the victim's tattoo, decapitation of her head, and dismemberment of Ms. Taylor's arms were acts perpetrated by Rex A. Heuermann to, inter alia, which we know means among other things, inhibit the identification of the victim via facial recognition, fingerprints, and or tattoo identification. During the initial investigation in Manorville in 2003, the victim's head, arms, and hands were not found at the scene, and their location remained unknown to law enforcement for approximately 8 years. On March 29th, 2011, Ms. Taylor's skull, hands, and forearm were discovered along Ocean Parkway just east of Gilgo Beach, Suffolk County, New York. Notably, Ms. Taylor's remains were located on the same side of the road from where Maureen Brainard Barnes, let's go over here, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, herein after the Gilgo 4, had been found just several months prior in December 2010. Each of the Gilgo 4 victims, as well as the skull, hands, and forearm of Ms. Taylor, were recovered on the same side of the road and at a depth of within 50 feet from the edge of the parkway. Furthermore, Ms. Taylor's remains were located less than a mile from where the Gilgo 4 were discovered. See embedded image in the following page, or on the following page. All right, so here are, let's move it back so you guys can see the whole thing. Here we go. So Jessica Taylor is number 1. She's over here. Maureen Brainard Barnes is number 2, right here. Melissa Bartholomew is number 3, right here. Megan Waterman is number 4, right here. And Amber Costello, number 5, here. All right. Okay. Information relevant to the disappearance of Jessica Taylor. Jessica Taylor was last seen on or about July 19th, 2003 in New York City. The investigation to date has established that in July 2003, Ms. Taylor was working as a sex worker in the area of Midtown Manhattan. On July 21st, 2023, at approximately 8:41 p.m., Ms. Taylor utilized her cellular phone, hereinafter the Taylor phone, to speak to her mother. Based on witness interviews and an analysis of telephone records, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that the two spoke for approximately 7 minutes. During that call, Ms. Taylor had arranged to visit her mother on July 25th, 2003, in Poughkeepsie, New York for her mother's birthday. Less than 2 hours later, at approximately 10:22 p.m., the Taylor phone placed an outgoing call which lasted approximately 2 minutes. Thereafter, the Taylor phone records reveal no further outgoing calls or accepted incoming calls. So what was that? July 25th, 2003 at 10:22 p.m. was the last use of her phone. On or about July 25th, 2023, when her daughter failed to arrive at her Poughkeepsie residence or answer any phone calls, Ms. Taylor's mother notified law enforcement. At the time of Ms. Taylor's disappearance, Rex A. Hewerman worked in the same vicinity as where Ms. Taylor was known to, quote, street walk, i.e., work as a sex worker. Records seized during the execution of prior search warrants reveal Hewerman was in fact present in Midtown Manhattan on July 21st, 2003, the same date Ms. Taylor disappeared. That's actually terrific investigation work to be able to, what am I trying to say? To like narrow it down to the day. What was he doing that day? It's pretty impressive. Sorry. Give me a second. I'm a chapped dude. All right. Let's see. On July 26th and in the days thereafter, members of the SCPD canvassed the area around Halsey Manor Road, Manorville, in the vicinity of where Ms. Taylor's remains had been found. As a result, investigators spoke to a witness who had, on July 25th, 2003, at approximately 10:30 p.m., observed a dark-colored Chevrolet pickup truck backed into the same wooded area where Ms. Taylor's body was later found. Based upon their investigation, law enforcement determined that these observations would have occurred approximately 13 hours before Witness 1's 911 call. Wow. So a truck was seen 13 hours before the remains were found. Notably, the investigation to date has established that defendant Hewerman purchased a 2002 dark-colored Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck on or about March 22, 2002, from Ramp Chevrolet in Port Jefferson Station, New York. Accordingly, on July 25, 2003, at 10:30 p.m., defendant Hewerman would have been in possession of a vehicle matching the description of the one observed in the vicinity of where Ms. Taylor's remains had been found on Halsey Manor Road. A forensic analysis of Rex A. Hewerman's digital devices also revealed the following. Man, 2003 digital tech. That they were they were digging deep. This 20-year-old tech, that's like 100-year-old in internet years, right? Okay, so it revealed the following. 1, that on or about July 28th, 2003, Rex A. Hewerman accessed a Newsday article titled, "Cops Seek Help in IDing Manorville Body," regarding the discovery of Ms. Taylor's human remains. That online activity was subsequently deleted. And 2, on or about July 29th, 2003, Rex A. Hewerman conducted an internet search for a Chevrolet Avalanche despite his 2002 Avalanche being just over 1 year old. See embedded image below. The analysis further shows Hewerman also attempted to delete the search for a new vehicle. Notably, this activity occurred just days after Ms. Taylor was discovered and just days after witnesses observed a vehicle matching the physical description of Hewerman's leaving the scene. So, so this is like an internet search for 2002 or 2003 Chevrolet Avalanche. He's looking for a different color, it looks like. Yeah, again, consciousness of guilt, right? Okay, finally, while the make and model of the vehicle Hewerman searched for is the same as his 2002 vehicle, Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck, the exterior color is different, i.e. arrival blue. See embedded image below, as well as another in Summit White, which are significantly brighter exterior paint offerings by Chevrolet when compared to Hewerman's dark green 2002 Chevrolet Avalanche. So he was looking to slyly get rid of his current Avalanche, 1 year old, and get one of a slightly different color. You know, like I was about to make fun of him for being a stupid criminal, but man, he got away with this for a long, long time. Stupid he was not. This was a smart guy. Okay, hairs recovered from the remains of Jessica Taylor. Okay. During the course of this investigation, Ms. Taylor's body was examined by a forensic scientist with the Suffolk County Crime Laboratory, hereinafter SCCL, which revealed that Ms. Taylor had been decapitated, dismembered at her arms below the elbows, and revealed irregular disruption of the victim's nipples and the obliteration of her tattoo. During the examination of Ms. Taylor's body, a male human hair was recovered, specifically from a surgical drape that had been underneath the victim, hereinafter male hair underneath Taylor. A subsequent examination of the male hair underneath Taylor led to the determination that it was a human head hair with Caucasian European characteristics. However, it was, based on DNA testing capabilities at the SCCL, unsuitable for further DNA testing at the time. On or about August 24th, 2023, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor to an outside forensics laboratory, previously referred to in Exhibit A as Forensics Laboratory Number 2. Pause here. Autumn is always hooking me up. Thank you, Autumn, for the super chat. I deeply appreciate that. Okay, which specializes in forensic mitochondrial analysis. On or about February 1st, 2024, Forensic Laboratory Number 2 issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from the male hair underneath Taylor and the profile developed from defendant's buccal swab are the same, specifically at a rate that would, per the EMPOP database, exclude 99.96 of the North American population as of the North American population as the contributor of said hair recovered underneath the decapitated and dismembered remains of Jessica Taylor. While 99.96% of the North American population can be excluded as the contributor of the male hair underneath Taylor, defendant Heuermann cannot be excluded as the contributor of the said hair recovered underneath the remains of Jessica Taylor. Just so you guys know, this comes up in trial all the time when there is DNA, which I'm sure you guys have seen. But experts in DNA, when they make their testimony in court, they talk in statistic terms. Like, what is the statistic probability that this hair belongs to this person? And there are a couple of different ways that they can do that. However, mitochondrial DNA, as I understand it, is not as exact as, say, PCA. I think, what is it? I think it's called PCA tests, or what are they called? Give me just a second. Man, I've talked to my buddy Matt a million times about this, and it's blanking on me the two different ways that they test and amplify DNA. But anyway, so they will talk in probabilities, and that's what we're reading here. We're talking about probabilities, right? So the defense would say, well, 0.04% of the population equals 100,000 people. I just pulled that number out of thin air. That's not even close. But that's what the defense will be. It's like, oh, well, 100,000 people in the United States could have committed this crime. Why haven't you looked at them? And, that will be something that they'll have to overcome in court. Okay. On or about, let's go down to this. Is witness from the Suffolk County Medical Examiner's Office have determined that the irregular disruption of the victim's nipples did not occur naturally, and one possible cause of such disruption is the postmortem mutilation. And then EMPOP is shorthand for the European DNA Profile Group, Mitochondrial DNA Population Database. Woo! That is a long name. Okay. On or about March 8th, 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor and a DNA extraction of Rex A. Heuermann's buccal swab to an outside independent laboratory previously referred to in Exhibit A as Forensic Laboratory Number 1, which applies DNA techniques and direct genome sequencing to difficult to solve forensic casework and the identification of human remains. Okay, so now they're sequencing. So they're no longer doing the man, what are the names? They're on the tip of my tongue. The two different, somebody tell me in the chat what the two different the two different DNA testing sciences are. I can't remember. I can't remember their names, but now they're using basically genetic genealogy is what they're going after here. Okay, on or about April 29th, 2024, Forensic Lab Number 1 issued a report indicating it had developed a nuclear DNA profile for not only the male hair underneath Taylor, but also from Rex A. Heuermann's buccal swab. Forensic Lab Number 1 was then able to conduct a 1-to-1 autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile, developed from the male hair underneath Taylor. What they will do, guys, is they will copy the DNA and amplify it millions and millions and millions of times. So they have an amplified like vat of DNA. Of course, it's not like in a giant vat. It's like this little bit, but it's millions and millions of strands, copies of the DNA strands. So then they're able to line the strands up, one on top of the other, and see how close they match. Now, because we've got like 2 billion different, different pieces of that molecule, they will look in very specific places that tend to be the places where there are genetic malformations, whatever it's called, mutations. And they won't look at the whole thing because that would be impossible, but they'll look at very specific segments to where mutations are most likely to occur, and they're able to match those things up. Okay. All right. So they were able to conduct a 1-to-1 nuclear DNA comparison between the profile developed from male hair underneath Taylor to Rex Heuermann's SNP. Oh, that's what it is. It's called SNPs. Okay, so that's what it's a SNP. All right. So his SNP genotype file developed from his buccal swab, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the male hair underneath Taylor is 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. So we're at 1.8. I don't even know how high that number is. What would we call that number? What is 10 to the 603rd power? It is called we probably don't even have a name for that. Oh, we do. All right, so 10 to the power of 600. Let me bring you over here. 603 is 1 duocentillion. I mean, it is so crazy close. Like, so they're speaking in statistical probabilities here. So it's 1.837 duocentillion times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. Sorry about that. Let me put on Do Not Disturb. All right. Let's go down to, let's see. Yeah. Okay. It just explains what I just explained. Where were we? All right. Based on the foregoing, it is significant that 2 forensic laboratories have now independently determined that the aforementioned hair recovered from the surgical drape underneath the remains of Jessica Taylor are substantially more, yeah, that's an understatement, substantially more likely to have derived from a person genetically identical to defendant Heuermann's mitochondrial and nuclear profiles, which provides further support that Rex A. Heuermann murdered, dismembered, decapitated, and transported the remains of Jessica Taylor to Manorville and Gilgo Beach until the victims' remains were ultimately discovered in July 2003 and March 2011, respectively. A couple questions we have here. Autumn asks, do we know if there's any relations to the woman or was it random? I think he went after sex workers mostly, Autumn. Most of the Gilgo Beach victims were all sex workers. That seems to be the connection. Don Richardson, do you think they could also connect the Eastbound Strangler to Heuermann? I think they're probably looking for it. They're looking for connections to other crimes. Have you guys seen? There's a movie called Mr. Brooks. It's with Kevin Costner, and he's the serial killer. And at the end, you find out. Yeah, spoiler alert for a 15 or 20-year-old film here. Sorry, guys, but you find out that before he was the serial killer that people know him as now, he was this other serial killer that people knew him as. So yeah, I think it's possible that serial killers could decide to change their MO. I mean, I was just talking with my sister about Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, an original East Area rapist, original Night Stalker. That guy changed his MO over time. So, I mean, it wasn't like a huge departure, but the MO definitely changed. So yeah, I think it's possible that that he could be some other. He could be the person that is known by some other alias. Let's see. Gavin, that large of a statistic is called Rex Heuermann, period. Yeah, it's pretty. What the defense will probably argue is, well, where did that hair come from? Did the prosecution or did the police plant that hair? There will be those kinds of arguments, but I don't think they can argue that it's not his hair, right? A good defense attorney will do their best, though. Okay. Heuermann's family travel in relation to the disappearance of Jessica Taylor. As part of the ongoing investigation, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has also established that Heuermann's wife and children were out of the state at the time of Ms. Taylor's disappearance and murder, a consistent theme attributable to the defendant for each of the charged homicides thus far, which would have allowed the defendant unfettered time and opportunity to execute these crimes. Guys, this is so I wish I could tell you this story. I'm gonna draw you some outlines, okay? I have a friend who is a very talented investigator. Very talented investigator. And not a layperson like me. She has bona fides, man. She's very good. She had a person that she suspected to be the Long Island serial killer, and she shared those details with me. And I was telling her today after I read this document for the first time, you didn't get the right person, but you definitely got the right type. And it's these kinds of things, right? This guy waited for his family to be out of town. Where am I? Wrong one. Waited for his family to be out of town in order to commit these atrocities. It is something else. Okay, specifically in 2002-2003, defendant Heuermann's daughter Victoria was a kindergarten student at the McKenna Elementary School located in Massapequa Park, New York. Okay, I'm guessing that the kindergartner didn't do this. At the time, Victoria was classmates with an individual whose identity is also known to law enforcement, hereinafter Witness 2. Based on post-arrest interviews with witnesses, including Witness 2's family and Victoria Heuermann, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that at the conclusion of the kindergarten school year, Ms. Ellerup and her 2 children vacationed with Witness 2's family from on or about July 20th, 2003 through on or about July 27th, 2003 at Smuggler's Notch Resort, which is located in Jeffersonville, Vermont. Rex A. Heuermann did not attend this trip. So he waits for his wife and their children to be out of town, and then he gets it done. Okay, these witness accounts have been corroborated via telephone records and electronic data seized during the execution of the July 2023 search warrants. For example, agents of the Gilgo Homicide Task Force seized AT&T records, which detail calls made to and from the Heuermann residence in July 2003. See embedded excerpt on the following page. These records show that during the aforementioned family vacation, the landline telephone associated with the Heuermann residence, which was located at 105 First Avenue, Massapequa Park, New York, hereinafter Target residence, made several phone calls to a telephone number bearing an 802 area code. Further investigation has tied this phone number to Smuggler's Notch Resort. Thus, investigators believe defendant Heuermann made these calls from Target residence in Massapequa Park to his family staying in Jeffersonville, Vermont. Talk about scary that he could live this life and keep it from the people who are closest to him. That is crazy. It's just scary to be that compartmentalized and that just, yeah, smart, I guess is the word for it. All right, so here are the long distance calls out to Vermont. All right. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force also seized phone records attributable to Heuermann's Manhattan business, RH Consultants and Associates. These records further corroborate Heuermann's stay in New York and the family's travel to Jeffersonville, Vermont, as Heuermann's work landline makes numerous calls during the same week, July 20 to 27, 2003, from Manhattan to the Smuggler's Notch Resort. See the embedded image below. And those happened in the PM. So he was calling from work. Yeah, so he was staying in Manhattan late, right? Finally, in July 2023, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force seized a hard drive from the basement of Target residence. An extraction and analysis of that hard drive revealed that it contained a Palm Pilot backup. Oh, you got to be kidding me. A Palm Pilot backup, which appeared to contain defendant Heuermann's date book or calendar for relevant dates. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force subsequently hired a digital forensics expert who, by utilizing native Palm software, was able to convert the above data into a readable format. Yep. Wow. Man, you would have to dig deep into the archives of the internet to get that software. All right. Based on the foregoing, the investigation to date has clearly established defendant Heuermann's wife and children were indeed located out of state during the time of Jessica Taylor's disappearance, which occurred on or about July 21st, 2003. Accordingly, the murders of all 4 charged victims and now the murder of Miss Taylor occurred at times when defendant Heuermann's wife and children were located out of state. Yeah. Okay, which would have allowed defendant Heuermann unfettered time to execute his plans for Ms. Taylor, which included the decapitation, dismemberment, transportation of her remains, without any fear that his family would uncover or learn of his involvement in these crimes. This is a absolute Dexter moment. Wow. Oh. Okay, the 1993 discovery of the human remains of Sandra Costilla. On or about November 20th, 1993, two individuals, while hunting in a wooded area of Southampton in the vicinity of 50 Old Fish Cove Road, North Sea, Suffolk County, New York, discovered the remains of Sandra Costilla. The victim, who had been 28 years old at the time, was lying on her back with her arms outstretched over her head, with her uncovered legs spread apart. The victim's shirt had been pulled up over her torso and head, exposing her breasts. The victim had numerous sharp force injuries to, including others, her face, torso, and then you guys can read the rest, because I would really like this video to get out to as many people as possible. Ms. Costilla is a native of Trinidad and Tobago and had been living in New York prior to her disappearance and murder. Hairs recovered from the remains of Sandra Costilla. During the course of the 1993 investigation, Miss Costilla's body was examined by a forensic scientist with the SCCL, which led to the recovery of, among other things, 3 hairs from the victim's remains, one from the victim's right arm, hereinafter female hair on Costilla, one from a tape lift of the striped shirt above the victim's head, hereinafter male hair on Costilla, as well as one from a tape lift of a white shirt above the victim's head, hereinafter unidentified female hair on Costilla, collectively hairs on Costilla. In 2014, well before the identification of Rex A. Heuermann as a suspect in Miss Costilla's murder, the hairs on Costilla were sent to Forensic Laboratory Number 2, which was able to develop mitochondrial DNA profiles for each of the hairs on Costilla. On or about August 1st, 2014, Forensic Lab Number 2 received an extract of John Bittrolf's buccal swab. Forensic Lab Number 2 was then able to develop a mitochondrial DNA profile from John Bittrolf from his buccal swab, and subsequently compared it to the mitochondrial DNA profiles that had been previously generated for each of the hairs on Costilla. At the conclusion of the analysis, Forensic Lab Number 2 was able to exclude John Bittrolf and his maternal relatives as contributors of the hairs on Costilla. Recently, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force requested Forensic Lab Number 2 undergo forensic testing, specifically comparing mitochondrial DNA profiles for each of the hairs on Costilla, which had been developed back in 2014 prior to Heuermann emerging as a suspect in Ms. Costilla's murder, to known samples provided by the Gilgo Homicide Task Force. On or about February 29, 2024, Forensic Lab Number 2 issued a report concluding that the mDNA profile developed from the male hair on Costilla and the profile developed from defendant's buccal swab are the same, specifically at a rate that would, as per the MPOP database, exclude 99.96% of the North American population as the contributor of the aforementioned hair recovered on the mutilated remains of Sandra Costilla. Let us not forget who our victims are here. Based on the foregoing, while 99.96% of the North American population can be excluded as the contributor of the male hair on Costilla, defendant Heuermann cannot be excluded as the contributor of the male hair on Costilla. Prior to Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, defendant Heuermann had been living with a female individual whose identity is known to law enforcement, hereinafter Witness 3. During the course of this investigation, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force was able to secure a buccal swab from Witness 3, which was secured via her consent. On or about March 29, 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a DNA extract of Witness 3's buccal swab to Forensic Lab Number 2 for further analysis. On or about May 8, 2024, Forensic Lab number 2 issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from witness 3's buccal swab and the profile developed from the female hair on Costilla share a common base at all compared positions, specifically at a rate that would, as per the MPOP database, exclude 99.98% of the North American population as the contributor of said hair recovered on the mutilated remains of Sandra Costilla. While 99.98% of the North American population can be excluded as the contributor of the female hair on Costilla, witness 3, who had but no longer resided at target residence prior to Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, cannot be excluded as the contributor of said hair recovered on Ms. Costilla. Wow. So 2 people living in the same home. Thank you very much, Pauline, for that super sticker. I deeply appreciate that. Thank you very much. Keep that up for a minute. Keep it. You deserve longer. Okay, so 2 hairs from 2 people residing in the same house were found on Sandra Costilla's body. This woman right here on the right. On or about March 8th, 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the hairs on Costilla as well as a DNA extract of witness 3's buccal swab to Forensic Lab number 1 for further independent analysis. On or about April 29th, 2024, Forensic Lab 1 issued a report indicating its ability to develop a nuclear DNA profile for the male hair on Costilla. The lab was then able to conduct a 1-to-1 autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile, developed from the male hair on Costilla, to Rex A. Heuermann's SNP genotype file, developed from his buccal swab, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the male hair on Costilla, which was recovered from Ms. Costilla's mutilated remains, is 4.347 times 10 to the 332nd times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. Let's take a look at that. 334, was it? Whew. 334. So that would be 400 tricentragillentillion. So 400 tricentragillentillion, however you say that. Right there. Okay. What would Deidre say? Yeah, it's definitely him, right? Okay. Forensic Lab number 1 was also to generate nuclear DNA profiles not only from extractive witness 3's buccal swab, but also the female hair on Costilla. Forensic Laboratory number 1 was then able to conduct a 1-to-1 autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile, developed from her buccal swab, to the SNP genotype file developed from the female hair, which resulted in the conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the female on Costilla is 4.578 times 10 to the 1040th power. Times more likely to have come from a person genetically identical to witness 3's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. I am curious if they're going to be able to, would they bring charges against that person? Is it possible? I think maybe not. Maybe it's more likely that her hair was on him and then her hair transferred to Sandra Costilla. Yeah, and on the case with Jeannie says, Gavin, what's scary is that law enforcement can look back that long at phone records. Yep. Decades. They can look back decades. And you know why? It's really, that kind of data is really cheap to store. So all that data from those old, even pre-digital phone lines. The records that were developed there are teeny tiny, and so the phone companies will keep them a long, long time. It's a good comment. Thank you. Deidre. She says, Gavin, the roommate hair is very interesting. You see pet hairs connecting people or DNA from trees and plants. First time I've seen roommate transfers. Yeah, this might be new in law enforcement, right? Pretty cool. All right. Let's see. Based on the foregoing, it is significant that 2 forensic laboratories have now independently determined the male hair recovered from mutilated remains of Sandra Costilla is substantially, again an understatement, more likely to have derived from a person genetically identical to defendant Heuermann's mitochondrial and nuclear profiles. Additionally, both laboratories were also able to forensically tie witness 3, who had resided at target residence prior to Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, to the female hair recovered on Miss Costilla's remains. The foregoing provides further support that Rex A. Heuermann mutilated, murdered, and transported the body of Sandra Costilla to Southampton. The chart below summarizes the results from Forensic Lab number 1, Forensic Lab number 2, which each individually have been able to determine that hairs recovered on now 5 of the 6 charged victims are forensically tied to defendant Heuermann, members of his immediate family, or individuals with whom Heuermann resided, lending further support to the conclusion that defendant Heuermann is the individual who murdered, stripped, restrained, and transported the remains of Jessica Taylor and Sandra Costilla, as well as the Gilgo Four, until they were each discovered in 1993, 2003, 2010, and 2011. So, and there they have that, that table. Okay. Heuermann's unfettered access to target residence during the disappearance and murder of Sandra Costilla. As noted as noted above, I don't know why lawyers have to do that. Based on post-arrest interviews with witnesses, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that Witness 3 and Defendant Heuermann began living together at target residence in 1991. In September 1993, approximately 2 months before Miss Costilla's disappearance and murder, Witness 3 moved out of target residence. Prior to Witness 3 leaving target residence, Heuermann's mother had moved out of target residence. Okay. Based on the foregoing, neither Heuermann's mother nor Witness 3 were living at target residence during the time of Sandra Costilla's murder. Accordingly, the murders of all 4 charged victims and now the murders of Ms. Taylor and Ms. Costilla occurred at times when defendant Heuermann would have had unfettered time to execute his plans for each victim without any fear that his family or others residing at target residence would uncover or learn of his involvement in these crimes. Wow. Newly discovered digital evidence. As detailed in Exhibit A, following Heuermann's arrest, numerous search warrants were executed at target residence, which culminated in, among other things, the seizure of over 350 electronic devices. Holy cow, talk about a hoarder. Like, I am a person who loves tech. There's no way I have 350 pieces of tech in my house. But okay. In the months subsequent to Heuermann's arrest, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has attempted to extract and analyze data from each of these devices. An analysis of these devices has revealed Heuermann's significant collection of violent, we're just going to say that sort of stuff, currently dating back to 1994. The images accessed by Heuermann include, but are not limited to, this sort of stuff, right? Oh my goodness. Wow. Which notably and largely coincide with how the remains of Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, and Valerie Mack were discovered. Yeah. Moreover, during the analysis of a hard drive recovered from the basement, I think you think that seems to indicate that they're going to be bringing charges against him in Valerie Mack's death as well. Let's see. Moreover, during the analysis of a hard drive recovered from the basement of Huerman's residence, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force recently discovered a Microsoft Word document titled HK 2002-04. The document was discovered in unallocated space. Allocated space refers to stored data that a computer is using, files that are viewable and able to be opened by a user. On the other hand, unallocated space refers to available or unstructured data, which is not readily viewable and able to be opened by a user. Unallocated space frequently contains room for new data or old data that has been deleted, sent to the recycle bin, overwritten, etc. For example, when a user deletes data, many users believe the file has been purged forever. However, deleting a file only tells the computer that the space previously occupied by that file is now available. The deleted data will remain in unallocated space until another file is written over it. Data contained within unallocated space can be retrieved via a computer forensic extraction method called file carving. A forensic analysis of HK 2002-04 document reveals that it was not only a locally created draft, i.e. not downloaded from the internet, but also recovered from a hard drive that indicates it was utilized by Huerman himself. While the original document appears to have been created in 2000 based on its original title, HK 2000-03, this iteration of the Word document, titled HK 2002-04, appears to have been created and modified between 2001 and 2. Based on the foregoing and the facts sent forth, included here, infra, the task force members believe 2000 or 2002 to be a reference to calendar years. The task force members also believe, based on the foregoing and the facts as set forth in this document, the Microsoft Word document, to be a planning document utilized by Huerman to methodically blueprint and plan out his kills, hereinafter referred to as HK Planning Document, attached as Exhibit B. The HK Planning document begins with a 4-category section with the underlined headings of problems, supplies, DS, and TRG. See embedded excerpt on the following page. All right, so he's seeing all sorts. Oh, wow. Man, he is planning. Wow. Look at that. DNA, tire marks, bloodstains, fingerprints, MO, witnesses, trace source of supplies, foot and shoe prints, photos, misleaders, police stop, truck stuck, fingerprints in gloves, plastic bags matched to box, hair and fiber. Wow, this is crazy. His supplies, booties, lye, acid, a police scanner, rope, cord, saw cutting materials, hair nets, photo film. Ooh, is he taking pictures? Burn can, foam drain cleaner, body wash wipes, tarps, drop cloths, medical gloves, bags, tape, large electrical clips. I think that's what that means. Ratcheted cargo strap, DS, DS1 Mill Road, DS2. This must be dump site. Dumpster site, next time recon, dumpster locations, and then TRG. I wonder if that T1 Megan, small is good, T-UNK black. Must be target. Based on the Gilgo Homicide Task Force training and experience, the members believe problems to be a guide on issues to avoid apprehension, supplies to be a reference to what supplies are needed to carry out the serial murders to avoid apprehension and to avoid leaving behind DNA evidence. The DS heading appears to be an acronym for dump site, which is corroborated by, among other things, the discoveries of Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor at 2 separate dump sites, i.e. the vicinity of Mill Road and Ocean Parkway, Under the same heading, okay, no changes made. Under the same heading is a note regarding dumpster sites, which the task force members believe is in reference to how Heuermann disposed of physical evidence in the manner described infra. I see dispose of the following section below. TRG appears to be a reference to a target or victim. See embedded image below. It is important to note that the known victims thus far are all petite women, which is consistent with the small is good entry in the document, lending further support to the aforementioned conclusion that TRG refers to victims or targets. Yeah. With regard to the DS section of the document, it is important to note that the human remains of Jessica Taylor discovered in 2003, as well as the remains of Valerie Mack discovered in 2000, were dumped in 2 locations. One of those locations being the vicinity of Mill Road, which is listed as DS1 Mill Road in the above Word document. On March 29, 2011, Miss Taylor's torso, skull, and hands recovered near Ocean Parkway, i.e. a second dump site. On April 4th, 2011, Ms. Mack's skull, hands, and right foot were also recovered near Ocean Parkway, also a second dump site. The recent discovery of this document prompted the April 2024 cadaver search of the Manorville area, which did not yield the recovery of additional sets of human remains, thereby reinforcing the task force members' belief that the HK planning document refers to Heuermann's preparations for either Jessica Taylor and or Valerie Mack. Wow. The HK planning document on Heuermann's computer then delves into a 3-category section with the headings pre-prep, prep, and post-event. Vehicle inspection, make sure he doesn't break down. Engage T1, recon, I'm not sure what T1, recon DS1, locate DS2, weather report, recon video cameras, recon pick zone for vid cams, prep, set up stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, hard point. Post event, destroy file, change tires, burn gloves, dispose of pics. He was taking pictures. He was taking pictures. And then he had to dispose of them. And then have story set. Oh. Wow. Let's see. Gonna just go to a couple of your comments here. Loch Nessie, Gavin, with so much recovered, this will just go on forever. I can't even imagine what's on that many devices. Yeah, there will be a lot, for sure. Will he go to trial with just these charges and more can follow? I think that's probably their plan. Yeah. Deidre says, Gavin, so bottom line with all this evidence, he will surely get bail. In New York, possible, but it doesn't look like it. GF, this should be first degree murder. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah, it seems like malice aforethought, doesn't it? So I think they probably were able to cross the bar of probable cause for second degree murder, and then they're probably going to try to get the case ready to go back to the grand jury for first degree murder. At least I hope that's the case. Wow. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force members believe pre-prep to be a guide on steps to take in advance of a homicide, i.e. inspecting the vehicle, engaging the target, conducting a recon or survey of video surveillance cameras in pertinent areas, including the pick zone, i.e. a location where a victim is picked up, and checking the weather to ensure for optimal conditions. Prep, on the other hand, appears to be a reference to steps taken closer in time to homicide, i.e. setting up the staging area, holding area, and table, crossbar, hardpoint for the victim. Oh my goodness. Did my friend picked the right guy here? I have to say. Specifically, the prep section has 5 entries. Set up stage, holding area, build table, crossbar, and hardpoint. the Gilgo Homicide Task Force, I should put this up so you guys know, members are aware that a crossbar is often placed underneath tables to provide further structural support for heavier objects being placed on a table. Additionally, the task force members are also aware that a hard point refers in the field of this to be a fixed attachment point to the ceiling that supports the weight of an individual being suspended off the ground, which is corroborated by Heuermann's significant interest in this, where the subject is either being, this is happening to them. Wow. Which is consistent with the foregoing notations regarding suspension as well as the condition of the victims described herein. Additionally, post-event appears to reference a checklist of tasks following the event or homicide to avoid apprehension, i.e. destroy file, change tires, burn gloves, dispose of pics taken of the victim, and have story set, e.g. an alibi, story for family upon their return, or law enforcement should an inquiry be made. HK planning document continues to further expound on preparatory measures such as specific recon steps taken. See recon reports and takedown pickup sections embedded below. Packaging a body for transport. See body prep section embedded below. And steps to inhibit victim identification and avoid leaving behind DNA evidence. See body prep, dispose of the following sections embedded below. So look at this. VidCams on LIE route 112 to route 110 equals 33. Oh man, yeah, he's hunt too long, seen in area too long. Remember, don't charge gas, pay cash. Recon for big VidCams and pickup area next time. Wash body inside and all cavities. Remove trace evidence, fingerprints, hair. Remove trace DNA. Remove ID marks, tattoos, marks. Remove marks from torture. Remove head and hands. Package for transport. Dispose of the following: tools and devices, T1 clothes and personal items, drop cloths, wipes and towels. Man, for an educated guy, he's not a good speller. Ooh. The body prep section above includes a note to remove head and hands, which clearly relates to the condition of Jessica Taylor's and Valerie Mack's remains, as both victims were decapitated and dismembered at their arms below their elbows. Additionally, each of these victims' remains, as well as the remains of the Gilgo 4, were indeed packaged for transport, as this section indicates to do, further increasing the significance of this document's presence on Heuermann's laptop computer. Finally, this section also includes a note to remove ID marks, tattoos. As noted above, the examination of Miss Taylor's body in July 2003 indicated numerous sharp linear injuries to the victim's skin, specifically around where her tattoo had been located, which investigators believe was intended to inhibit the identification of Miss Taylor's tattoo and therefore Miss Taylor in a manner consistent with the HK planning document. Oh, let's see. Siha. Seeing all the misspelling, do we know if he had dyslexia? I had thought maybe his wife wrote this for him or to him. I don't know. It's a good question. Deidre says, Gavin, a while ago I heard something that with the first degree murder they have to charge second degree until the premeditation can be proven, as in with multiples after. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, if they can, they basically, though, I know that they have to convince a grand jury that there was premeditation in order to get murder one. So I think it's probably a good strategy to just charge murder two if they can prove the malice. All right. Furthermore, the dispose of the following section lists destroy computer files as a checklist item. The presence of this HK planning document in unallocated space demonstrates Heuermann's efforts to destroy or delete computer files in a manner that is consistent with this notation. As set forth in Exhibit A, A consistent theme of Heuermann's computer activity is the use of forensic wiping software, among other things, in a manner that is consistent with this notation in the HK planning document. You know, if you want to, I don't want to give serial killers the way to do this. But just everybody know that data always remains on your drives unless it's overwritten. So why a guy that would be this smart, which I think he was, would be this stupid in the computer science part of it? He should have actually physically destroyed all those drives. But I guess he thought he was getting away with it. In the things to remember section, there are notes indicating steps to take next time, i.e. considering a hit to the face or neck next time, or use heavier rope for the neck as the light rope broke under stress of being tightened. Heuermann further opines on the importance of sleep to not only avoid problems, but also to increase what Heuermann refers to as playtime. Whoa. Man. As set forth above and embedded here below, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force members believe these references to next time indicate Heuermann's prior experiences and what changes to implement moving forward. Moreover, the references in Things to Remember section to utilize push pins to hang drop cloths from ceiling and not tape, as well as manifested concerns regarding sound travel, indicate the referenced incidents would have occurred indoors and likely inside of target residence, which is a controlled environment that Heuermann would not only be familiar with, but also an area where Heuermann would have access to said tools and supplies. Drop cloths would also serve the twin purposes of limiting the spread of forensic evidence such as blood to a confined area, as well as controlling sound travel, which would lead to more playtime, which is believed to be a reference to all these acts that he perpetrates on the victims. Additionally, with Heuermann's family vacationing out of state, defendant would have had unfettered time and exclusive access to the target residence, allowing him ample opportunity to execute and clean up after these crimes. Finally, the HK planning document on Heuermann's laptop includes a notes section. Notes: spur of the moment, cover, Stockholm Syndrome. The more you do, the more clues you give. Look at the painting. What, why, who. Organized versus disorganized. Originatized. Originalized versus disoriginated. I don't know what any of those things are. Okay. The investigation to date has established the source of these notes, i.e. the Mindhunter paperback book authored by John Douglas, specifically the first edition published in 1996 concerning the criminal profiling of serial killers. For example, the notes section of the HK planning document includes the following note. Oh, these are pages. Yep. Page 162 of said book does indeed reference this substitution, as Douglas describes the rather horrible... you guys read that. On page 163, Douglas opines that the perpetrator of such a crime, i.e. this, would be a disorganized killer who would be compulsive and perhaps living with his parents. Accordingly, this notation contained in the HK planning document is consistent with the affirmation book in page number and subject matter, and he was indeed, leading up to 1993, his mom was living with him, right? The notes section of the HK planning document also includes the following notation, page 175. Okay, in page 175 of the first edition, Mindhunter book, Douglas describes a woman's screams. Wow. I'm not going to read that aloud, but you guys can read that. The notes section of the HK planning document also contains the following notation. Look at the painting. What, why, who. On page 19 of said book, Douglas notes that while he was still at the FBI, he always advised his agents, if you want to understand the artist, the perpetrator, you have to look at the painting, the victim. We've looked at many paintings over the years and have talked extensively to the most accomplished artists. Accordingly, The note above, contained in Heuermann's laptop computer to look at the painting, yet again points to the aforementioned book as the source of Heuermann's commentary. Finally, the other notations contained in the HK planning document, i.e., spur of the moment, cover, Stockholm Syndrome, the more you do, the more clues you give, are also each contained in said book, all pointing to it as a source of Heuermann's notations. The foregoing is corroborated in part by Heuermann's possession of other serial killer books authored by John Douglas. During the initial search warrant execution in July 2023 at Target residence, the task force observed that Heuermann possessed in his home office the book entitled The Cases That Haunt Us, which outlines the facts, evidence, and victimology of several notable serial murder cases. Wow. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force members believe that the totality of circumstances surrounding the HK planning document, including Heuermann's attempt to delete its existence, points to it as Heuermann's self-education and homework on the topic of carrying out serial murder. Heuermann's pointed concerns regarding 1. Avoiding being captured on video surveillance, 2. Leaving behind forensic evidence, 3. What supplies to purchase, 4. How to package a body for subsequent transportation to dump sites, e.g., wash body inside and all cavities prior to package for transport. 5. Avoiding a paper trail tying him to crimes and or crime scenes, e.g., remember don't charge gas. 6. Concerns regarding noise and or air travel, which could inhibit playtime. And 7. How to improve next time, further confirm merely by looking within the four corners of the document itself its relevance in this regard. This belief is further corroborated when looking at a litany of external factors, including, among other things, how the 6 victims now attributable to Heuermann were indeed packaged and transported, and in the case of Ms. Taylor, how her head, hands, and tattoo were removed and or obliterated, consistent with the document's instructions. Furthermore, an analysis of Heuermann's computers confirms the HK planning document was in unallocated space and had hence been deleted, which is consistent with not only the destroy computer files notation, but also Heuermann's established use of forensic wiping software. Let's see. If convicted on the current charges, the defendant faces multiple sentences of life without parole, and remand without bail is appropriate based on the serious, heinous nature of these serial murders, the strength of the people's case, the life incarceration the defendant faces upon conviction, the extreme measures this defendant took to attempt to avoid apprehension for over a decade, and well over a decade. It was like 3 decades. The defendant's indictment on these additional charges, which now incorporate a 5th and 6th victim, the people remain steadfast that the only means to ensure defendant's return to court is to remand the defendant without bail. And that was dated yesterday by Raymond A. Tierney, the DA. Let's see. Well, Andrew Lee, the assistant DA. The rest are exhibits, which we've all kind of gone through. Wow, guys. What a document. What a document. Whew. Let's see what you guys are... No, that's all we got. That's all we got as far as the comments that you guys have for me. And that's perfect because it really has been quite a while. What have we been at this? We've been at this almost an hour and 20 minutes. This is a case, obviously, that we'll keep our eyes on. I expect sometime in the future we will see a charge for the murder of Valerie Mack. So far, the victims, as we know, are Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Costilla. But we know there are more. We know there are many more. And I suspect there are many, many more. But that's all I got for you tonight. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for going through this document with me. I will be back sometime soon with more info on the cases that I'm covering. If if you like this kind of content and haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Please also remember that you can always find me over on my website, which is gavinfish.com. Show it to you right now. Just gavinfish.com. I've always got a link in the description below, and you can contact me there. You can, if you want to support me beyond watching my videos and liking and subscribing and commenting, or if you want to support my mods, there's a way for you to do that there as well. And you can also, if you're on Facebook, please join us over on the Fish Tank. We're almost 1,400 members, or almost exactly 1,400 members strong now. And we're a little group of people that like to talk about true crime related stuff. So please join us there. With that, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you the next time. Thank you very much for joining me, and take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.